Last time on Dragon Ball Z, this World Tournament was entering its curtain call as Hercule declared a fatal 5-way as the condition that would determine the ring's true sigma.
Out your cattle for the Rizzler. You're so scared, buddy. You're so phantom tax.
Despite their best efforts to form an alliance, Killer Mike and Family Jewels were sent packing before the bell could even ring, leaving only 18 the Stallion, the Saiyans formerly known as Mighty Mask, and the Champ as the tournament finalist. Paying no attention to what they can only dub as free lunch, 18 and the boys made a beeline towards one another, giving those in the crowd a scrap worthy of the tournament climax. Despite, or maybe more appropriately, in spite of their best efforts, Trunks and Goten's uncoordinated assault was no match for 18's efficient movements. And after sending the boys back to the surface for some R&R multiple times throughout the skirmish, 18 ended the quarrel with a move she picked up from a certain bald baby daddy, quite literally cutting through the Saiyan Tyke's nonsense, leaving them disqualified, and the only thing standing between her and the tournament victory, a hairy has-been with sodden trousers and more lies than a pickup artist's body count. But in this all but guaranteed win, 18 saw a window of opportunity. What if she allowed the Knuckle Dragon Karateka to keep his coveted place as the champ, under the condition that he, in exchange for his title and a functioning lower body, would provide her with 20 million zenny? Everybody wins, 18 comes out a made woman, and Satan won't have to get made into meatloaf in front of his thousands of adoring fans who still believe him to be their martial arts messiah. Following a verbal confirmation and a release headlock, the terms were set and 18 proceeded the work of a lifetime, selling Satan's moves with more vigor than a primetime Kenny Omega and exiting the ring gracefully, allowing the champ to keep his title as her wallet just got a whole lot thicker. While her dad celebrated his narrowly maintained seat upon the throne, Videl ran into Beavis and Butthead, giving them the message sent by Goten's older brother about what was happening and to stay safe until the coast was clear. But just like any child you tell not to do something, their first instinct was to do the very opposite. And after hearing Videl talk about magicians and a pink bubblegum creature that was the arbiter of the apocalypse, she couldn't have threatened the boys with a better time. And in short order, they donned their golden wigs, picked up at the Super Saiyan bargain sale, and made their way towards their father's key signature in hopes of seeing all these fantastic creatures in one piece before their merciless fathers turned them into mulch. As the boys made their way post-haste to the location of the battle, Gohan was knee-deep in a slobber knocker with Dabura in a contest that appeared evenly matched. Gohan, taking a cue from his Saiyan elders before him, started things off with a little foreplay, refusing to power up his Super Saiyan right away as he tested the waters against his immaculately groomed opponent. On some real bro, this would have been the perfect opportunity for a sponsorship by $5 Shave Club, because just look at this man Tim Curry's goatee. Buddy is lined up to perfection, not a stray hair in sight. I didn't know they got busy like that in hell, but let me lock in and get back to the point, which is exactly what Gohan needed to do, because for every kick he delivered to Dabura, man got pummeled right back. Bura then set a small cavalry of rocks aimed at Gohan's dome piece, and homie got lit up like the dude at the end of Scarface. And then finally, after deciding he had consumed enough vitamins and minerals for one evening, this man Gohan came to play and transform, turned to Super Saiyan, leaving the King of Demons at a loss for words at exactly what the hell this pubescent pugilist was up to. Gohan then gets on his Barry Allen time and
Gohan.
Before Dabura can ask what's for lunch, Gohan leaves the man losing his, hitting Buddy so hard in the stomach he started throwing up all that protein he was catching in Bobby's waiting room earlier. But our washed up warrior wasn't through yet. Gohan took to the skies and blew Vegeta a kiss real quick, telling him this was for you, old buddy, as he began wasting all the ki he could muster in an energy blast volley that I can only imagine was done to send a message more than it was to end the scrap. Because at his big age and how many ass whoopings he's been on the receiving end of fighting with the prince, you can't tell me this fella didn't know that wasn't gonna work. And like clockwork, as the dust began to settle from the gratuitous waste of ki, Tim hit a substitution jutsu, lining up right behind Gohan, giving him a 3-piece hook combo that left bro yodeling while his Pops and Vegeta were looking from the sideline in shambles. And as the fight wore on, Supreme Kai couldn't hide his amazement, truly impressed that a mortal had the stones to stand 10 toes down against a Demon King and actually put in some work. And let's just comment on real quick how Gohan want to be Goku so bad in this section, bro. He even gets this little moment where Dabura knocks him in the water and he stays submerged down there for a while, recalling shades of what Kakarot was cooking on Namek with Frieza. Man like Gohan even tries the same plan, shooting some energy blasts from the submerged water, hoping to catch Dabura slipping. Unfortunately for him, though, Dabura saw that old ass movie before and clapped that nonsense away faster than the racist cheeks went. You know what? Let me stop. Gohan didn't know that them boys in the Makai realm be religiously watching Namek Saga recaps on movie night simply off of how mad Frieza gets watching his fade get ran on repeat. Cell's got multiple copies of that DVD and make sure Frieza got front row seats every Friday in HFIL drive-thru. Hey, yo, Frieza, watch this part. It's my favorite. What a classic. Returning to our homies in the curbside tickets, every second Gohan let that man Dabura breathe a piece of their air on that blue trap bubble, Vegeta was growing more and more hostile. Kakarot, I promise you in your non-existent father's honor that if your boy doesn't finish this clown Dabura off in the next minute, I'm gonna kill them both. There is no proper excuse for your son being more powerful back when he was knee-high to Nappa's ass, compared to now when I have to wear my goddamn platforms to see over his idiotic headdress my fool of a wife concocted. And I swear, Kai, if I hear you gas up this pitiful performance one more time, I'll be adding you to the list too. As harsh as it may have come across, Goku couldn't even deny it, looking over at his old battle buddy like, you know, I really hate to admit it, Vegeta, but it really is kind of stinking up the place right now. Man, maybe being a ghost for 7 years and putting the fate of the universe in an 11-year-old's hands wasn't exactly the greatest idea. It was 7 years too late for regrets though, because Gohan was getting put through the ringer right now and was steadily giving Vegeta acid reflux as the battle continued and there was no clear dominant force being established. As the two traded punches, it looked like Gohan was finally coming in for a decisive blow, when Dabura decided
I'm up to no good
and gathers all the backwash he can muster, firing directly at Gohan, who looked like he was in stone cold trouble. But at the last minute, he reflexively swats at the repulsive Loogie, which proves to be a saving grace, as the unsanitary implement of biological warfare splatters onto the stolen dishwashing glove, which he promptly throws down to the surface, and it shatters like that worn out sock you wouldn't get rid of in your bedroom. But I need y'all to riddle me this real quick, right? So just a bit earlier, I understand how the homie Krill ended up a part of Stonehenge because Buddy took the Loogie straight to the face, no chaser. But somebody gonna have to explain to me how Piccolo ended up stoned then, because if I'm not tripping, Buddy only got hosed up on his thick ass cape. He had a whole couple articles of clothing between him and that magic spitball. And yet somehow, my man's sitting there just as bricked up as Krill like he got done tongue kissing Medusa. Come on, Toriyama, RIP man, but any excuse to keep the green man down. Returning to the battlefield though, Dabura had another ace up his sleeve, as Gohan came to collect for him, almost ruining his chance to consummate his relationship. Dabura lifts his arm into the air and by the power of Grayskull summons a saber and tells Gohan that he isn't the only one trying to relive past arcs, and starts getting busy with his new machete to give Gohan a first-hand replay of that episode 120 special. Gohan is quick to put a pause on that flick though, letting him know that he's had enough nostalgia for one day and stops the sword mid-slash and then does him one better, exposing the quality of that Temu tier butter knife by turning slightly to the left and breaking the whole thing in half. And all Dabura could do was act like he was surprised, screaming, "What?" Like he didn't hop online and pick that thing up for $4.99 off of AliExpress with them coins he built up during the holiday season. While Gohan is working through his asthma attack and Dabura is reeling from secondhand embarrassment, by now the Prince of High Expectations had about all he could watching these two palookas duke it out for the crown of most disappointing in the arc. Mans was damn near pacing and had sweat dripping off his forehead. He was so pressed. He could not allow himself to sit still any longer and watch this embarrassment. He came to the tournament to kick Kakarot's ass and chew egg rolls, and he was all out of egg rolls. Damn it, Kakarot, I'm done. I've had it. Your son's a bigger disappointment than my barber. I swear on my honor that if you don't square up right now and give me my match, I'm gonna boom Dabura, your wretch of a son, that smug blue man, and you for wasting precious moments I could have been using to listen to Fresh and Fit. Damn near the only Earthlings I've heard babble on that actually makes some sense on this blasted rock.
You won't step on the scale. That's a fact. You are obese. A majority of men don't want obese women. You're delusional. You really think a majority of men want obese women? But you still are obese and you're trying to conceal it through mirages. Here's the facts. You're obese and you're lazy. So you are obese, which is the definition of fat.
The moment Dabura heard Vegeta utter the words fresh and fit and making sense, he knew his work was done. He immediately called Babidi to transport them back to the spaceship with the quickness because he had just digested some new info that would hasten the reawakening of Buu much faster than he could have ever hoped. Bob, annoyed at the prospect of keeping the spiky-headed thorns in his thorax alive any longer than necessary, but morbidly curious at the apparent game-changing discovery his second-in-command made, approved Dabura and company's return to the office. As Burra scuttled off with a mischievous grin down the company escalator, a baffled and slightly miffed Gohan yelled out, "What the hell was the idea? You can't just fly away in the middle of a beatdown." Even he knew that. Dabura couldn't help but fire back. "Run away? Me? From you? Sorry, dear, you got it all wrong. I just so happened to find the perfect companion for you, so my services are no longer needed. But before I go, I'll give you a hint. In the past, they were known as something of a bad man. Back in the day, I understand you made a friend named Yamcha who died, making that Earth woman Bulma something of a widow. Well, let's just say for this man, Bulma isn't the only widow who's piqued his interest. Dabura!" "Apologies, master. On my way." And as the Z homies attempted to decipher the devil in the details, Dabura himself returned to Bob's side to deliver his findings. Master, most fortunate news. And as Dabura continued his revelations, culminating in his reveal of the Saiyan's enjoyment of the Fresh and Fit podcast, Babidi couldn't help but rejoice, for he knew at that moment that the perfect candidate had been found, and Majin Buu's revival was much closer than they had realized. Returning to the ship, Supreme Kai was racking his brain as he digested Dabura's words. Widow? Piquing his interest? Widow? Widow's peak, and as he slowly turned to the Saiyan in the blue onesie, his worst fears were confirmed. All of a sudden, Vegeta began holding his head, experiencing a worse migraine than when Trunks is downstairs screaming at the top of his lungs on that damn gorilla tag. On top of this, his power seemed to be going out of control, as if he was being overwhelmed by an energy that his body could barely contain. Supreme Kai, seemingly the only one with a grasp on what was occurring in front of them at the moment, pleaded with Vegeta to fight the intrusive thoughts. He attempted to explain to Vegeta that right now, Babidi was attempting to infiltrate his mind palace, and if he was allowed to enter, he would gain control of the prince and he'd become the puppet of that rodent abomination. Kai, for once in your confounded blue existence, would you shut up? If I have to sit through one more yap session, I'm gonna... Ah, yes, perfect. The mind control is going even more smoothly than expected, gloated Bob, as he input more cheat codes in his crystal ball. How about we release those pesky limiters on our Sigma male friend and let him have a quick go at his buddies? Then in moments, Vegeta let out a blood-curdling scream as his power shot through the roof. Gohan attempted to plead with Vegeta, begging him not to fall under the villain's control, but his efforts were as impotent as his fighting prowess post-Cell games. And in a few seconds, an ominous end, same as the one falling upon the noggin of Big Vig and Yamu at the World Tournament, seemingly seared its way onto his forehead. Vegeta's transformation was now complete, and he had the Majin tramp stamp to prove it. In the heated confusion, Bobby decided he had a fantastic idea. A fight as grand as this one was deserving of a different kind of venue. Parappa-da-rappa, Bob shouted, and instantly Kai and the Z homies found themselves in the middle of the World Tournament stage, staring back at an audience just as bewildered as them as they were looking back at it. Babidi got on his walkie-talkie and began delivering his next set of orders to the Majin Prince. Remember what that imbecile Spopovich did to the Earth Girl? Yeah, I want you to do that to those ingrates standing next to you, but worse. Don't be afraid to have a little fun. Get creative. Hell, you can even oof him for all I care. Really not my concern anymore. Vegeta, breathing heavy as hell, more vascular than he's ever been in his life, looking like the M on his forehead stands for methyl testosterone, told Bobby to stand down and stand by. He could hardly care less about a single one of these jobbers breathing his royal air in the stadium. He had only one goal now, to reset the tier list and place himself back on top where he belonged. Kakarot and his peasant-filled lineage had been allowed to gallivant for far too long without consequence. He was here to regulate, and it was time to mount up. Back at Star Command, Bobby couldn't believe his tympanoid organs. Despite seemingly having undergone the full Mama's Boy transformation, the ornery Saiyan was still somehow able to exercise a certain level of independence over his body, which shouldn't have been possible. At this point, though, it was of no consequence to Babidi. All he needed was for the branded prince to incite enough hood rat activities to provide Boo the remaining fuel he needed to rise from his grave. And whatever happened in the wake of that was these Earthlings' problems to sort out, not his. Returning to the World Tournament, the supporting cast of the Z homies looked out of the stadium, and a few of them thought stuff was sweet as they looked out in the distance and saw Goku and the rest of their lovable scamps all gathered around in one piece, no Luffy. Soundly beating the dementia allegations, Roshi was the first to peep that despite those being their comrades, something was way off, and they should watch closely what's to come in the next few minutes, because he had a feeling things were about to get more crooked than Sun's hairline. The most terrified of all may have been the people's champ, as he got on his Courage the Cowardly Dog time and peeping the family reunion of the golden-headed heathens from the Cell games, who he was sure made their appearance to either steal his spotlight, his life, or both for all the credit he took for the heroics 7 years back. Vegeta put an end to the wondering in quick fashion though, as he raised his palm straight ahead, directly at his low-born rival and fired off a nuke with ill intent. Goku tried to tank the blast, but he was caught off guard at its speed and power and was blown away, being forced to watch in horror as the attack devastated the stadium grounds right behind him, blowing away a sizable portion of the arena and the audience right along with it. In that moment, all the audience and Vegeta's friends and family specifically could do was stare wordlessly in awe of the atrocity their ally, loved one, and friend just committed. And right here, with the Prince's gauntlet being thrown in decisive fashion, is where we'll call it. Right here, homies, we're coming up on one of the highlights of the Buu arc for many. Despite it being pretty early stages into the saga, Vegeta's Majin transformation is prolific for a number of reasons. Not only for the quality of the hands being thrown, but for the look it provides to the man behind the gloves and why he was willing to go through such lengths to have one last match with the Earth's true champion. Tune in next time as Majin Vegeta vs. Goku gets underway. With Goku, armed with his years of training in the other world, be able to hold off the newly transformed Vegeta's assault? Or will the boost provided by Babidi's profane magic prove to be too much to overcome, even for the Earth's most powerful hero? Only one way to find out. Be easy, y'all, and I'll catch you again in the next video.